TxStampin Sharon, bringing you a very easy snow scene using a masking technique. Very easy. Did I say easy? If you like this video and you think that a crafty friend of yours would enjoy it, I'd be so honored if you would share it with them. I would love for you to give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think about this card. Let me show you the card. I have two versions to show you. Watch how I do the second one. This is a simple masking, just masking off a piece of my Whisper White cardstock. This one, a little bit different. I did some different shape and I masked off my little reindeer. Let's get started. You'll need to have something to cover your work surface because this is a little bit messy, not bad. Your fingers won't get messy, so that's a good thing. You're going to need some Post-it notes, and I use two different sizes. For this one, I stamped my small reindeer, and then I cut him out. And if you'll notice, I only cut out the top part. I did not cut out his legs. No need to do that. So for our first card, we're going to take a large Post-it note and a piece of Whisper White paper that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm going to use my Memento ink and I'm going to stamp my larger reindeer. And let's see, we're doing this card. So we're going to stamp him over here. I like to hold my stamp there for just a few seconds, let all that ink transfer over. Then I'm going to grab my little reindeer and I'm just going to stamp him right there. So depending on how tall your first image is, there, felt like I should zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to use my grid paper and I'm going to line up the bottom so that I know that my paper is straight. And then I'm going to figure out where the top of my reindeer is, and it's this line right here. Let's move that out of the way. You will want to make sure that your ink pad, I'm using Night of Navy, has recently been re-inked. And I'll just show you a little trick. When I am re-inking, I will put ink all over, and it kind of comes out in dots. Sometimes it just depends on the tip of your re-inker. And then I will take a plastic spoon and I will just mush that around. That way I have ink all over my ink pad, and then I will go wash this off. I've taken one of our round circle sponges and I've cut it into quarters, and I'm going to just ink up my sponge, and I'm going to start off the paper and just swirl across. That way I don't have a big blob of ink, and I am really putting a lot of ink on this. Therefore, you need to allow it time to dry. This is going to be the easy version. The only thing you have to worry about on this is the straightness of your Post-it note. Really a dark sky. I'm going to leave my Post-it note right where it's at, and I'm going to bring in the softly falling dots. And I want to show you how I didn't let my Night of Navy dry on one of my cards, so it kind of stained. It's gonna wash off, I'm not worried about it. I left it there so I could show you. you really want to make sure that this navy is dry before you proceed. I'm going to hit it with the heat tool. I'll be right back. I'm going to pick up my paper, and you can decide when you're looking at this folder, it's a little bit of snow at the bottom, a lot of snow at the top, vice versa. I'm going to go ahead and flip this around to where I have just a little bit of snow at the top. Actually, I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to run it through the Big Shot so you can kind of see where your navy is. So now we've done that. And now what I want to do is I want to take the craft white ink, and I'm just going to gently go across it. The reason that I left the Post-it note there is just in case I hit my reindeer. I didn't really want snow on the reindeer. Just a preference, I guess. Okay, so now we have that. We have a little bit of white. I will tell you that the craft white does take a while to dry, so let's just emboss it. For this card, this is the only time you'll ever see me not use the embossing buddy, because I wanted a little snowstorm effect. Pretty cool, huh? I think it's awesome. I love it. Sometimes your snowstorm will look differently than the others. On this one, I did it really, really dark because as I was playing with this technique, I really liked the darker layer of the ink. We're going to add this now to our card base, which is also Night of Navy. Using multi-purpose glue, and it'll get down in all those little dots for me. I have my sentiment layer and my silver foil cut. I believe my Whisper White is 1 1/4 by 1 1/2. Pop this on with some dimensionals. Many Merry Thanks is a sentiment that comes in that set. Let's do the second masking one. I have my Whisper White layer, my card base, my sentiment layer, and all of that. We're going to bring in our Post-it notes again, and this time we're going to grab our snips and we're going to cut this up the middle so that we can make multiple cards. We're going to have some little snowbanks. So when I make the second card, it will look different with my snowbank. Pretty fun. I want to take and lay this right along the edge, and it's going to stick to my Whisper White layer. The other one I came off of the paper, off of the Whisper White layer. I don't need this just yet. But this time I want it to stick to it. We're going to grab our sponge and we're going to do the same thing for our night sky. You really want to hold that Post-it note on the end that doesn't have the sticky. I'm going to remove the Post-it note, and now I have a nice big area to stamp my larger reindeer. We're going to stamp the smaller one now. And here's where my little mask comes in. I want to bring my mask in. Oh, I don't think you can see this. I'm actually going to drop it down a little bit. In other words, it's not going to go exactly over it. It's going to come down a little bit. Because when I stamp the second reindeer, his legs, I want his legs to actually meet my first stamped image. And there is a little bit of a lip because of the Post-it note. So that's why I'm coming down a little bit inside the body. See what I mean? I want to show you, I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper and I want to show you what happens if you don't do that. Stamp one. Okay. See what I mean? His legs don't come into the first stamped image. See that? You'll have a little gap. And I think when I hear from some of you that you have trouble with masking, that's the problem. So you really want to bring in the mask, like drop it down a little bit. It's okay because we're just using black and black, but just drop it down a little bit so that those legs stamp into the body. The reason why I put a mask at all is because you would see the legs completely if I didn't put a mask there. So the second way to do the snow is to actually ink up the embossing folder itself. Again, I wanted to make sure that I had a lot of ink. I used my re-inker, I used my spoon, I mushed it all in. Make sure that your ink pads are good and juicy. There are two sides to the embossing folder. This side is smooth, this side is raised. When you're actually adding the ink to the folder, you want to do it to the raised side, because if you do it to the smooth side, let me just show you what's going to happen. Again, I did this on purpose so that you could see. Let me grab. So see how white that is? That's because typically when you put your card in there, this is on the top. And so I automatically inked up this side because that was the top. And when I did, I got too much white. I didn't get the polka dot effect because the polka dots were not inked. Oh gosh, I hope that makes sense. So here, just don't put the ink on the top. How's that? Don't do it. We're gonna add the ink to the raised side. I don't have to, but again, I didn't want my reindeer to have snow on them. I don't know why. I just didn't. So I'm going to add this back, and I'm going to put this in technically upside down because I have inked up the bottom. And now I need to decide, I want the more snow up here. When you close it, you can see where the snow is. Okay, I'm happy. So there we have it. We have our snow, and our snow is indented this time instead of raised. I'm not going to add embossing powder to this one. I'm just going to hit it with the heat tool and let it dry. We're just going to add this layer. So as I showed you, there's two different ways to mask. You can just mask off your paper, or you can mask off like I did my deer. And I have put my sentiment in different places depending on where my snowbank is. Boy, I really like that darker sky. And it's just a super fun technique. And whether you do your ink pad across it, but see how all 4 of my cards look different, and I love them. I would love to know, what technique do you want to know? Leave a comment below. I've been asking a lot of people, what can I share with you? What can I teach you? So I would love to know, what do you want to know? What technique do you want to know? Thank you so much for watching. If I could ever help you with any of your Stampin' Up! Supply needs, I'd be so honored. Happy stamping, y'all!